Welcome to Growing Bremerton Together and Mayor Patty Lent. Stay with me today because my special guests are going to be Majors Marcia and James Baker with our Salvation Army. Welcome to Growing Bremerton Together and Mayor Patty Lent. I have two great guests with me today. I have Major James Baker and his lovely bride and wife, also Major Marcia Baker. Welcome.
Thank you.
What we are going to learn hopefully today is a little bit about the Salvation Army, but a lot more about the two of you and how you met, because I know Salvation Army is a meeting place for you as well as your livelihood. So I'm going to start with Marcia, if you don't mind. So where were you living when you met?
Actually, I was living in Boise, Idaho when Jim and I met. He had gone to open the Salvation Army work in Victorville, California. And he lived in San Bernardino, where I had some very good friends, Majors John and Mary Jane Horgan. And they would say to him, "You should write to Marcia, she's a nice gal." They'd say to me, "You should write to Jim, he's a nice guy." So we both wrote the obligatory letters and to say we wrote and then they'll leave us alone. And, he'd write, I'd write, and then on April 23rd of 1980, 82. Time's gone fast. He called me out of the blue. We talked on the phone like we'd known each other forever, and that was the beginning of our relationship. We were married a year later.
Kind of an old-fashioned eHarmony.
Exactly,
online.
yes, exactly. Only then it was very expensive on the telephone.
And so after this chance meeting, in fact, that's fun to hear about, she'd been with the Salvation Army a little longer than you.
5 years.
5 years longer. And so she was an official major?
She was a captain.
I was a captain.
At that time, right? And I was a lieutenant.
And how do you earn the different degrees? Because the military has a strong influence on how you operate.
Yeah, the influence is simply in terminology and in structure. But you're a lieutenant for 5 years. Currently, you're a captain for 10 years, and then you become a major. And it's so simply by years of service. Anything beyond that is by position. So when we met, I was a lieutenant, she was a captain, and at that time, the rule was that the woman had to take the man's rank. So I demoted her to lieutenant. But she says, "No, you promoted me from Miss to Mrs."
Yes.
Well said, well said. And then,
she's very tactful.
So you were in California for a number of years.
He was.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
and then after
we finished one more year of service in Victorville, and then we were sent to Reno, Nevada. We were there 3 years. Then to Redding, California for 5, then to Bakersfield, California for 3. Then we were sent to Helena, Montana for 5 years, and then over here for 15 years.
That's unheard of.
Yes, it is.
People do not stay that long in one location. How did you manage that? Because of what you were doing.
They didn't know what else to do with us.
No, we wanted to build the building. Yes. The day that I arrived in Bremerton is before all the fancy, the very nice entrance to the city. We were driving through the shipyard and we came up on Callow, and the first thing I saw was pornography shops, and I thought, "Oh dear God, what have you sent us to?" And we came down 6th Street, and then I really thought, "Oh my." And right then the Lord planted in my heart a desire to build a new building for the Salvation Army to provide better services. And it wasn't for a while before I knew that was going to come into fruition. We had gotten a large estate, and then Keith Birkenfeld died, and he left us a large amount of money, and that started the dream for Sally's Place in the Hygiene Center. So I knew that we were going to build that building. I never in my wildest dreams thought we would have all the hurdles that we went through, but now it's almost fruition.
Did you know Sally Santana
Oh,
when
yeah.
you
Yes,
first
we
moved
did.
here?
Not when we first moved here, no. No, it actually was probably 10 years before we really met her.
Because Sally's is kind of, it was her name, and she did so much for the feeding locations. She was kind of like, her heart was with the Salvation Army.
Yes.
Because she really did everything that you advocate for.
Exactly. Part of where Sally's Place came from is abbreviation for Salvation Army. People often will refer to Salvation Army as Sally's. And so knowing Sally Santana and working with Sally for us gives us an additional meaning, because she was so good with, she knew what the homeless went through. What a testimony of what she lived, and she was a strength for all of us as we were dealing with so many different issues, knowing she battled with so much more.
Personally, and she did. She was exemplary because she was living a life that she knew she wanted to help everyone else.
Yes.
When I was a county commissioner, she started a program down at the park in Port Orchard, and it was Day of Forgiveness. And she really took off with that, and it was a way for people to forgive something that had happened to them. And it lasted the entire 4 years I was in office. It did kind of dwindle, but again, if you don't have somebody with
the passion,
that's what you need. So about the Salvation Army, tell us a little bit from your words. What does that mean to a community? You're not just serving breakfast.
Right. Well, the Salvation Army is so many things, and we adapt ourselves to the community that we go into. But we recognize, we started in London, England, in 1865. We're 150 years old this year. And William Booth, the founder, recognized you can't preach Jesus to a hungry man. And his heart was always for the poor. And so he very quickly, along with the evangelism that he was doing, started social services. And that just kept on growing, so that around the world now, and we're in 126 countries, we have an amazing array of different kinds of services. In Bremerton, we've focused more on the homeless and the poor, because not everyone who comes and eats meals with us is homeless.
No, I've had lunch with you.
Sure,
Yes.
sure. But we simply try to recognize whatever the need is in the community and try to address it. And so that's why we're building this building, because there are some needs that aren't being addressed very well, showers and laundry especially. And so that's what we want to add.
Aren't you providing mailboxes?
Mailboxes or document wall. We're not sure just exactly how that's going to work out, but yeah, and that's another big need that the homeless have. Because if you can imagine sleeping out in the woods and having your driver's license or ID with you, your birth certificate, and having the potential of losing it, then what do you do? The difficulty of getting an ID card is pretty enormous. So you don't want to lose those if you don't have to.
The people that have breakfast and lunch with you, are they getting excited about the completion of this building?
Sure they are.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I think about our ministry in Bremerton is a saying that William Booth used. First of all, there's soup, which we feed them. Then you have soap, you clean them up. Then you can talk to them about their soul. And the three really go hand in hand with what we're doing and with the completion of the Hygiene Center. Because we can talk and live before them what it is to be a Christian, but you have to be able to meet them at the point where they are. And for some of them, with all of the mental health issues that are on top of this, it's hard just with soup, soap, and salvation to reach them. But that's the goal.
Did you have to take any biblical training or spiritual, in order for you to take and instruct and bring this? Because, when you've got a chapel, it's bringing some hope for them. So it's really more than just coming in there and having a bite to eat.
Yes.
There is a reason that you spend time with them and that you want their life to have an uplift.
Yes.
Right. Yes, our our seminary is called a training college, CFOT, College for Officers Training. But yeah, we have biblical training. We also have business training. We have a wide variety. And in fact, when we were in training college, there was certain things we took, but now it's gotten so much broader. So many more things that have to be taught because now you've got computers and you've got all sorts of other stuff. So it's pretty intense. It's 21 months, including three months out in the field during the summer. So they get 10 weeks out in the field. So yeah, it's very intense training. You actually live on the campus. Children go to the local schools, but it's the whole family is right there.
And 21 months, that's almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Well, the other part of it too is in that first 5 years as you're a lieutenant, there's what's considered what used to be called continuing education. And you go through a variety of continued training and support. There's also a mentoring program where you're meeting with mentors to help better prepare you for all the different things that you face. So it's not like you're commissioned and you're thrown out to the wolves. There's a lot of support. We have yearly officers' councils. Sometimes it's twice a year, one more business roundtable. One is a retreat that's more of a spiritual retreat and teaching time. One of the officers' councils we had was actually like a 5-day seminar. We got to pick all kinds of classes that we were able to just better our skills. So there's always an emphasis to better improve yourself, keep yourself up to date with what's going on in your world. And you know, it's hard, but it's so important because otherwise you don't know what you're dealing with when you get out into the community.
And it's like you really have a business, even though it's a
Yes.
501c3.
Yes.
So all the donations that come in,
Yes.
that's good because that's one of your that's where your revenue comes from.
Exactly.
Yeah, and our kettles at Christmas are 40% of our total cash income for the year. Yeah,
Yes.
it's very, very important for us to have all
How
of
does
that
Bremerton
income.
rate among other cities or other districts as far as collecting funds at the Red Kettle Christmas time?
Well, we're one of the largest because our divisional headquarters has given us the whole county. So we have 45 locations. A lot of other places don't have nearly as many locations because they're confined to a smaller area, or they just have it just is a smaller community. So we do pretty well compared to others. Even we kind of compare to Vancouver. Yeah, even Bellingham, you know.
And then last year and this year, there was a new program, The Great Give,
Yes.
and something that hadn't been thought of before. So I've learned there are 220 nonprofit or
Yeah.
501c3 agencies and programs in our Kitsap County.
Right.
And we were able, the people that live here are so giving, $1 million.
Yes,
Amazing.
They are.
And so you benefited
Yes.
by
Yes.
just being one of the
Yes.
nonprofits that
Right.
knew you could use those funds
Yeah.
drastically, especially with the new building.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, we came in 19th.
19th of all
Yes,
provided.
yeah, $12,425 or something like that. Yeah, which was almost double, both in number of givers and amount given from the previous year. So it was exciting.
That is exciting.
I think the other part with the kettle program, we have had an awesome team. Jim has handled the Port Orchard kettles. Abraham Solomon has been with us for 13 years. And Abe is now 80, but he has come back every year and loves kettles as much as my husband does. So but I think that's because of the passion we have for the ministry. We know that I say the kettles are really for September, because that money has to last us at least a year until from one December to the next December. So we do everything we can to raise as most as we can so that it's not so lean come September, October before we start kettles again.
And again, in our community,
Yes.
the civic organizations, the Lions and Rotary
Yes.
and Seroptimus and Kiwanis. They all pick different times
Yes.
so that they can assist you with that, and that
Yeah.
saves you having to pay someone
Yes.
to actually
Exactly.
ring the bell.
Right.
We are so appreciative of all the volunteer groups like Lions, Kiwanis, Seroptimus, Rotary. I don't want to leave anybody out because they're all important because that money then comes right back in for programming and for whether it's the feeding program or the food bank or something in social services or paying the utilities. It's all important.
But having said that, we're also very pleased to be able to hire people
Yeah,
as
I
our
wanted
bell
to
ringers
say
because
that.
you give them a job at Christmas.
You do. And they're people that you see throughout the year that you've
Yes.
assisted in other ways,
Right.
and this is a way for them to have, as small as it might be, it's something that helps them sustain.
Right.
It does, and for their self-esteem, it's worth every bit of it. You know, there's two things throughout the year that I loved and very passionate about. One is working with the kettle workers and the staff for kettles, the camaraderie with counting the money at night, and
At the party every night.
you know, it's an awesome time. And also our summer camp program, where the Salvation Army has a resident camp out near Eatonville, and we send about 70 kids every summer to camp. And I love working with that program because the kids get out and get to be kids, and they come back singing those silly songs, just happy being kids, and don't have the weight of the world on their shoulders that often, you know, we're trying to make them grow up so fast, and they can just go out there and be kids. And it's just awesome, the experience that the kids have.
Two things I like along with this is in the schools we have Key Club and we have the Leos.
Yes.
They're starting to volunteer their time and ring bells.
Yes.
But when I see a parent give coins or a dollar bill to a little tyke and they want to take and run over and put the money in the kettle,
Yes.
that is that's that giving that you're starting without even,
Exactly.
they learn it automatically.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
So now you almost have a building that you're going to dedicate, and at the same time, retirement is around the corner.
Yes.
A bittersweet pill for the city and for all of us that have known you and worked with you all these years. First, tell us about the big celebration that you're going to be having. It's not a total ribbon cutting, but you want to be at least part of the things that are happening for the building before you retire.
Well, we're not sure just when the dedication is going to be because once once our new building is finished, which will be the end of August, then there's another 6 months of work on the old building. So they may not do the dedication until, say, March or April of next year.
You'll come back for that.
We've been invited already to come back for that, so that will be great.
Now you've got a bigwig coming up, not just from Seattle.
Yeah.
Right.
I've been at a dinner with you where you had the Seattle leadership, and now from California, they're coming up for your retirement.
Yes. On June 20th, what we're doing is an invitation only for donors, is a thank you. We wanted to be able to say to our donors how appreciative we are of their support of us and believing in the mission that we and the passion that we have for our community and for the homeless. So it's a private reception on the 20th, and then that evening, Commissioner James Naggs, our territorial commander, is going to do our official retirement ceremony. We will finish everything on the 30th, but this is when he could come, so we're just thrilled that he's coming.
And you fell in love with the Northwest and with this Kitsap County, and
Yes.
so you've actually bought a house.
Right.
And
Yes.
you're going to be turning over your current residence to the new major and his wife that are coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Will we have a
The-
chance to
the-
meet them?
The current resident is owned by the Salvation Army. It's provided to us, and so we've moved out already into our new house, and the new ones will move in, and they're coming from Port Angeles, so it's only 2 hours away. So they've already been down a couple of times and visited. So it's
And they
it's
get
great.
a new building. Oh my gosh, life couldn't be any better for
Yeah,
them.
and the quarters has been very much remodeled, and and landscaped and lots of things. So they're going to have just an excellent quarters to live in, as well as a new building, new programs. Yeah, they're inheriting a lot that they'll be able to
I
build
met
on.
your son when he was a teenager, and he's all grown up now.
Yep.
And is he living nearby, or is he?
He's living actually in the quarters right now. Yes, but he'll be moving out and living with friends. But he's still in the area. He's still
Does
single.
he have any idea that he wants to follow in your footsteps with Salvation?
No.
He said, "I grew up with Salvation Army. I'm going to now step into a new career."
Exactly.
He wants to get in filmmaking.
He wants to, and he's one class from finishing. He thought he at OC, and he thought he was going to get to take it this summer, but it's not offered. So he's now having to wait until September to take it. So he's weighing his options about transferring over to Seattle Community College, because ultimately he wants to go to Seattle because he wants to get into the filmmaking, and he's got some contacts, and so he's going through transition.
But he knows that filmmaking is not a guaranteed steady career. And so he's also going to OC to get into childcare, early childhood development.
Oh, that's great. We all love OC. Olympic College is a jewel
Yes.
amongst us.
Yes,
So the
yes.
things that are so important to everyone that lives here, it just makes our life, that quality of life, that's great.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And we have a daughter.
Yes, and I didn't get to meet
We
her yet.
do, yeah. Our daughter is married, and of course we're wonderful grandparents. I'm not biased at all, but Quentin is absolutely, he's 2.5, and the delight of our lives. Can hardly wait.
Well, you get to spend more time with them.
Exactly.
And they'll be
to-
here next week.
They'll be here for our retirement and be able to spend some time and just loving on our grandbaby and our daughter and son-in-law.
That's great.
So
And you've got a garden already started, so you have some busy time that is totally different. You'll miss what you do every day, won't you?
No?
Oh, well, that's the right retirement, I'll tell you. I
We are gonna
I've
miss-
never met anyone that said, "I wished I'd worked one day longer."
we're going to miss people.
Yes.
We're not going to miss all the responsibility and all the demands, but it's going to be nice to be able to step back and still help people, but not have to have all the responsibility.
That responsibility, balancing budgets and making it
Exactly.
work, and
Exactly.
running out of supplies and surplus.
Exactly.
Before we wrap, I'd like to just mention Breakfast at Sally's. You, as a Salvation Army, but so visible, were really almost responsible for that. I know you helped Richard in writing something and putting it on copy paper with a paper clip and having somebody read it is a lot different than having a published book. And I think you're on the third, he's on the third,
At least.
at least third.
yeah.
It's been also translated into Korean. I was honored to be in Seattle with a Korean delegation, and he gave me one of his books. He autographed it, and then I got each one of them to write a little note. And these were Consul General and some of the people that were the top leaders of South Korea. And so he was honored to do that. You know, his dream is to be on the Ellen DeGeneres show.
Yes.
So I might have to send her this little snippet about us, about the importance of what we're discussing, and that there is this book that has been not only nationally but all over the world.
I think the important part of Breakfast at Sally's is it put a face to the homeless. It's you, it's me. Any one of us could be that person on the street. And we think it would never happen to us, just as Richard never thought it would happen to him. And to see that there are success stories and people that are struggling every day just from paycheck to paycheck that are still surviving out there on very little. But they all have faces, they're all people, and they all have feelings, and there's things that if you wanted to put something about our passion, that's what our passion is, because we want to help them, to give them that hand up and the hand out, you know, that there's hope. And there is always hope, one, because of a relationship with Christ, but hope because mankind cares for you, and hope because there's places you can go to receive that help. You know, you have to be willing to take a step yourself, but there's help out there.
And that's how I describe our two buildings. The new building will be where we do the hand out, the meals, the showers, the laundry, but the old building will be where we do the hand up, because that will be where we'll have a computer lab, we'll have classrooms, we'll have the church. So hand out, hand up. Both things are necessary to get somebody on their feet.
It is. And you two have been very necessary in our community. I want to thank you for being with me on this show. We'll miss you, and yet you're leaving a tremendous legacy. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for being with us today. We'll look forward to seeing you next time with Growing Bremerton Together and the Mayor, Patty Lent.